So please help me welcome and introduce Mohammed Abu-Esba.
I'm okay with you guys making fun of my gray shoes, because in the akhirah I get ajr for that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Mohammed Abu-Esba. Inshallah Rabbil Alameen, today we're going to be talking about how men should wear the hijab. I really hope y'all guys like that title. So this past week on Monday, I went to a women empowerment at St.Edwards University, and I talked there about women empowerment in Islam. Yesterday we had Quran study. I see some people that were there. And we talked about some beautiful Arabic words with beautiful root meanings. And inshallah that'll all come down, those two past meetings, into this halaqah, because there's a lot of words that have to do with hijab that we truly don't know, and they're truly women empowering and human empowering in general, but because we don't understand the words, we don't understand the benefits of it. So, inshallah, we'll start off with this khutbah, as I always start off any other halaqah, as I usually start off khutbahs with 4 basic definitions of Islam. Because without these 4 basic definitions of Islam, we truly don't know or really understand anything else. So the first word I always like to talk about is Islam. I know you guys from the Quran study. I'll have to get this again, I'm sorry. Islam means submission to the one only one God through peace. So the root meaning has 2 words, peace and submission. And a Muslim is someone who submits him or herself to this one only one God through peace. And the way that they submit is through ibadah. And ibadah is a truly beautiful word because it has the same root words as the word for enslavement. And that's very important in this halaqah that we're going to be talking about hijab. Because I want you to imagine a scenario where you're opening the closet, okay? And you're picking the clothes that you're going to wear for that day. Depending on who you worship is the clothes that you're going to pick. So for example, if you're worshiping Brother Kanye West, you're going to pick the clothes that Kanye West is going to like, right? If you're worshiping your Arab tradition, you're going to pick the clothes that what your Arab tradition says is okay. If you're worshiping men, you're going to pick the clothes that what men says is okay. If you're worshiping women, then you're going to pick the clothes that woman thinks is okay. But if you're worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to pick the clothes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to wear. Do we understand this idea of ibadah? How it's kind of like, oh, okay. It's that thing that prevents you from doing something and from pushing you to do something, okay? And so obviously in your ibadah, you're going to go through a difficult time. Worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not easy. Something as simple as clothes is tough for every Muslim, okay? It's something that we will always struggle with. And this struggle is called jihad, okay? So those are 4 basic definitions that I always go through, and this is something that we always have to remind ourselves. Because at the end of the day, who cares what's haram and halal? Like these 4 things are really, really important. Are we good? Okay, inshallah. So, before I get into hijab and men wearing it, where's Abdullah? For real, I mean, come on, not a lot of guys are comfortable with wearing hijab on Facebook, so may Allah reward him for that. So I want to talk to you guys about hijab, the headscarf, but in order for me to talk to you about hijab, I have to talk to you about a word called khimar. In order for me to help you to learn khimar, I want to talk to you guys about a word called daraba. If I want to talk about daraba, I also want to kind of talk to you about a word called khamar. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story about when I got high. Astaghfirullah, who's judging me? I was at a dentist appointment. Oh my God, calm down. So my parents, mashallah, have 8 kids, and they love taking us to the dentist because they think it's so hilarious when we're on drugs. I am not kidding. And they like to compete who takes the kid to the dentist. So my father is taking me this time, and he takes me to the dentist, and he drops me off, and he has to go to work. So they were doing this checkup, and they put, the laughing gas, they put me on drugs. And this, I've never done drugs before, Alhamduillah, so I got really high very quickly. And so, the lady had the laughing gas on me, and she goes, do you want more? I'm like, yeah, I want more. This is the only time it's halal, like, hit me up, right? And so, I thought it was a checkup, I thought they were just checking on my teeth before they were going to start the process. When I was on this medicine, I started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa, I know so many numbers. And I just kept on counting. And then I started naming a bunch of animals and counting their legs. I said the bird, 2 legs, giraffe has 4 legs. Whoa, I'm freaking smart. Like, I know so much. I just pretty much repeated everything that I've known in my life and pretended that I was smart. The checkup was done. They put me to the side. I text my dad. And I was like, yo, Baba, they're not going to start the process until you're here. I go use the bathroom, and I'm like, subhanAllah. We have toilet paper, we have a toilet, we have a sink. MashaAllah. Wallahi, I was thinking, at least when I was high, I was thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? And I was like, subhanAllah, that we have a toilet, like, guys, like, we make waste and it like disappears. We don't have to worry about it. We have toilet paper to wipe. We have a sink to wash our hands, plus soap. Water is good enough, by the way, scientifically speaking. But soap just in case so we could smell really nicely. And I was like, subhanAllah, like, this is awesome. Like, whoa. So I leave the bathroom. My dad walks in. He's angry because he's mad that they didn't do the process. He's trying to tell them that you don't need me here to take out my son's wisdom tooth. They were like, no, we already did that. He doesn't know. So my dad comes to me and he goes, Muhammad Habibi, you're done. I said, what? So Haram, this doctor, probably deals with a bunch of high patients, okay? He comes out and I go, doctor, I thought you just did the check-in. And he goes, no, we're finished. And then he like walked away. I said, okay, I guess he didn't think that was funny. I thought it was hilarious, right? My father thought it was so funny, he went and told everyone else this funny story. The reason why I'm telling you this story is because I want to talk to you guys about khamar, okay? And there's a question that we have to ask ourselves. Why do people drink? Why do people smoke and do drugs? So the reason is because our brains are logical. Our brains have standards. And sometimes those standards and the logic that you have in your brain, it's so hard to enjoy life. It is so hard to enjoy life with those standards, right? When you're thinking about Syria and Palestine and the problems in America, it's very hard to enjoy life. This thing makes it hard for you to enjoy life. So you need to do some things to turn this off so you can enjoy life easier. What you're doing by turning this off is lowering your standards. That's why anything that stupid happens, you goes, you start laughing. Because your jokes, the standards of it goes low. Anybody you see, you can have a relationship with anyone. Why? Because your standards are lowered. That's why you do drugs or get drunk, to shut off this brain. Because this brain is what's preventing you from being happy. Someone once told me that whenever they're, I know, what does this have to do with hijab? Give me a second. That she feels like she worships God better when she's high. Or that whenever she does drugs. I told her that's sad. That you need to be intoxicated to worship your Lord. Right? Like I told you guys, I was in the bathroom and I was very thankful. Wallahi, I've never been that thankful of a bathroom before. Right? But why aren't we thankful about bathrooms? Like, Jed, why aren't we that thankful without being intoxicated? Like, there are people overseas who don't know where to put their waste, who don't have, mashallah, beautiful bathrooms where they can just flush and their waste goes away. No, their waste is just piling up in the middle of their country because they have nowhere else to use the bathroom. You see, okay, great, you become more graceful and more gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're high. Like, that's ridiculous that you need to do that. Okay? Because what you're doing is you're lowering your standards of life. So when you're lowering your standards, you're more thankful for what you have in front of you, and that's why you're more thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And so it's funny because we think that people who do drugs or do alcohol are the people who know how to have fun. But it's like, no, they don't know how to have fun. That's why they're doing these things. To lower their standards of life by shutting off their brain so they can be happier. Khamar is a word that is used in the Quran that is haram, right? It's forbidden. What does khamar mean? Remember, this all is going to go back to hijab. So I told you hijab is a word that I want to talk about. Then I want to get to khimar, then daraba, and then khamar. Okay? Remember that sequence. So now we're on khamar. Khamar shuts off your brain, okay? Now, the khamar sounds like another word, khimar. Does anyone know what khimar is? Okay, so yesterday at the Quran study, every time I ask a question, there will be a sister who goes, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a jinn in the Nueces question, and it's answering the questions. People are way too scared to answer the questions. What does khimar mean? What? Scarf, okay. What did you say? A cover. So, no, what is it?
That's it, I said two cover.
Two cover? Okay, she added a 2 to that. Okay, cool. I'm just kidding.
She said the long one, like the long hijab.
The long hijab, I got long hijab. Does anyone else want to go for it?
Longer hijab?
Longer hijab. You get candy. khimar is a head cover. Okay? That's what khimar is. Khamar is another head cover. One's physical, the other one is mental. Do you see the connection there? Khamar, so that's why people translate khamar into alcohol. Y'all do know alcohol is an Arabic word, right? Alcohol is already in Arabic. It's not khamar. Khamar is anything that mentally covers your what? Your head. Okay? And that's why, remember, covering your head to shut off your brain, to lower your standards, to make life easier to you enjoy. Okay? So khimar is kind of like the exact opposite. It's not covering your brain. It's not messing with your intellect. What are you doing? Just covering your head. That's it. You know, I kept on saying this yesterday in the Quran study, when you don't know the Arabic roots and you just memorize a random meaning, you don't understand the beauty. Because even though the khamar and khimar have a similarity that they're both covers, one degrades you, one upgrades you. Okay? What's the similarity is that they're both head covers. The difference is one is mental and one is physical. Okay, so now I want to talk about another word because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word before khimar in Surah Nur. وَلْيَضْرِبَنَّ خِمِرُهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. يضرب, ضربة. When I tell my mom, like, my brother hit me, ضربني. Mama Saif ضربني. Saif hit me. Here's the word, ضربة. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He's telling you to wear the khimar, He's telling you to make sure your khimar punches you in the face, right? Okay, sorry, that wasn't for me. I'm just kidding. Right? Or when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the men of the cave, okay? And He said, فَضَرَبْنَا عَلَىٰ أَذَانِهِمْ. Why is it important that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that He covered the ears of the people in the cave? Does anyone know what scientific fact that has to deal with? Okay, maybe there's no scientists in the room. So there's no Muslims and no scientists, got it. I'm just kidding. So, all your five senses, there's only one of them that's still awake when you're asleep. Does anyone know what it is? Hearing. So that's like the scientific, this is a big scientific, fact that, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to keep them asleep for a long time, what did He do? He
closed it here.
Covered the ear. The word that He uses is what? Daraba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't punch their ears. That would have really woken them up. Okay? So the word here is used daraba. And whenever He's using clothes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the verb daraba. So when you're wearing clothes, what verb does He use? Daraba. The word for wearing clothes is daraba. The word for covering is daraba. And so this is very important because there's an ayah that uses daraba that a lot of people are confused about. Does anyone know what ayah that is? Rabbi. Come on, no one reads the Quran.
This one stop.
Yes. Mackenzie answers everything. And she's been to my for khutbahs for 2.5 years. I mean, come on, guys. Go on, Mackenzie, where's that ayah?
Between the man and the wife.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the man, they're treating the woman like property. Very easily. Now that they're not property, now that they're their wives, they're their partners, they have to treat the woman differently. So when there's a problem, he can't just beat her. He has to follow a certain sequence, and not just any problem, a very big problem between the wife. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the man, okay, what? First you advise her. You talk to her. Okay? Does anyone know the second step? The jinn is talking. I don't know if it's someone or the jinn. Does anyone know the next step? Yeah, leave her from the bed. Let her go sleep on the couch voluntarily, right? Go sleep somewhere else. It's like a peaceful way of protesting that, hey, Habibti, there's a problem. I'm trying to talk to you, but you're not listening to me, so I'm going to go sleep on the couch. Okay? First one, advise her. Second one, sure, don't talk to her. Third one, beat them. No, I'm just kidding. But the word that's used here, what is it? Daraba, right? So does it make sense that the first, a peaceful protest, you peacefully advise her. The second one is you kind of peacefully protest where you ignore her, then you just beat her. The ayah after that says, if the problem still continues, then you get someone from your side, like I would get my brother, and if I'm married and there's a problem between me and my wife, then she would get like her sister or someone else, and her sister and my brother will get together and they'll be like our lawyers, and they'll be like, look, maybe they're really emotionally twisted in this problem, and that's why they can't be logical, so why don't we try to do the logic for them? Do y'all understand that? You see how subhanAllah, the Arab men were just used to hitting their women. Now they have to do what? They have to talk. Men don't like talking, like using our biceps, right? So no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is switching that up, saying no, you have to talk about it, there's a process of it. And daraba doesn't mean hit. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't punch them in the ear to get them to sleep for a really long time. When you're wearing your clothes is a punch you. I mean, I don't know, maybe y'all are really aggressive with your clothes. But y'all get my point, right? So we understand the word khamar, we understand the word khimar and daraba. Now we can finally get back to hijab. Can someone tell me what hijab is? If you say headscarf, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. Yes.
It's like a partition, a screen. Right?
Partition and a screen, right? So in Nueces Masjid, they have a hijab. Guys, come on. Y'all know every word now. Come on. So we've used this hijab word as a metaphor for modesty, which I'm okay with. I'm 100% okay with using the word hijab for modesty. But as long as you understand what hijab really is, as long as you understand that the real word is khimar, as long as you understand where khimar comes from, what's its roots, meanings, and stuff like that, I'm okay with using words metaphorically. But there were many women a few years ago who were saying, there's nowhere in the Quran where it says women have to wear the hijab, and I promise you they're right. Nowhere does it say Allah saying, albisu hijabakum, right? Because that's not the word. It's khimar. And there's such a beautiful meaning and roots to it, so that's something we should, get to know so we understand the words better and understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better. By the way, about khamar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us within the word why it is haram, right? Because it's a mental head covering. Like Allah tells us the logic behind this word within the word itself. How beautiful is that? Do y'all get my drift here? I sound cool now, right? Anyways, he tells us within the word why it's haram. So some people will say, oh, khamar is just alcohol. Like, obviously it's not. Or that, nowhere in the Quran does it say that marijuana is in the, no, marijuana is considered a khamar. Anything that plays with you mentally is considered a khamar. You see, when you make that word only alcohol, you have a problem. But whenever you use the word for its true meaning and its root meaning, then you can see the whole spectrum, right? And then some people say, well, marijuana, it doesn't affect you physically. Is marijuana haram because of physically or mentally? What is a word? Is it a mental headscarf or a physical headscarf?
Mental.
Mental. So is it haram because of the physical attributes of marijuana or is it because of the mental?
Mental.
Bam, shazam, that argument is done. Okay. But it's because we don't understand that word, we're not going to be able to make decisions as we do today. So now hijab, we use it for metaphor, for modesty, but for some reason this word hijab is more pointed towards that side of the room. Women, modesty, let's put it on them, and guys, let's not worry about it. I'm okay with that, right? So we have a problem here. We've attributed this beautiful, metaphorical word that it's a barrier between what? Men and women, right? So that barrier is like limiting between the relationship between men and women, so we're going to metaphorically use that as hijab. Again, I have no problem with that idea. But to attribute this metaphor only to women, we have a problem. When we don't apply modesty to men, we have a big problem. I can sit here and talk to you and say, when that brother, made his sujood, I can tell you what company made his boxers. Right? All of us know that. We've seen the underwears of guys, in Salah. We all know it. But if I were to use that same scenario with a sister, I think a lot of people would be having a lot of trouble. Standards become differently. Even though there's the same ruling on your underwear in Salah for both men and women. If I were to mention that scenario for a woman, people would go crazy mad. We laugh about it for the men, but when it comes to the woman, astaghfirullah alayhim. Right? Do you see where I'm getting at here, guys? I just want to make sure we're on point. So that's a problem with our society, and that's a problem we have with our men and women. And this isn't just a men problem. Women, this is a for you problem too. You need to be more inclusive with modesty, right? Don't just think that, it's just for us girls. No, it's for everyone. Okay, and modesty has a bigger problem. Now, Alhamduillah, I talked to you about the root words and stuff like that. We get the meanings now, right? We understand it. What, the hijab and khimar, we understand that, right? Arabi-wise, are we good? Does anyone have any questions about that? Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Sisters, real quickly, I want to talk to you about khimar before I bash on the guys. Wearing the headscarf is fard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear that you should wear the headscarf. But remember the word that I talked to you about in one of the 4 basic definitions, the third one. What was it? The first one was? The second one was? The third one was? Okay. Half of y'all weren't listening or something. No, I'm just kidding. So I once heard a sister, she said, I don't want to wear the headscarf because I don't want to wear it because men tell me to. I said, Mom, mashallah, that's something that we need to hear. I was like, however, you should wear the headscarf and not for men. If you're wearing the headscarf and your intention is for men, or for women, or for your parents, or because your parents told you so, or because your brother told you so, keep the headscarf on and do what? Change your intention. If you don't want to wear it because of society, blah, 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 or because men, they're very big on modesty, and I don't want to fall into men's trap, isn't your decision still based off of the men? Because the men want you to wear it, you don't want to wear it? That decision is still based off of who? Men. Are you a slave to men? No. I'll give you another example. So I talked at the women's empowerment movement, and I talked to them about that. A lot of the people there like this word, and they like the idea of it. So you know how women are, alhamdulillah, more in the business field, right? And so they want to wear clothes that are more business and more professional. But what they have a tendency to do is wear clothes more like the men, because men are more business and professional. What other decision is based off of? Men. Do you see where I'm getting at here? That their influence of clothes is based off of men. That's still not the basis off of for them or for justice. So a girl not wearing a hijab because men tell her to do so, you're still basing your decision based off of who? Men. And you're not enslaved to men. Don't let them affect your decision. Make it because you want it. I'm done with that. I'm not going to talk anymore about him. I'm sure I'll get enough of that with all the other shuyukh. Now it's your turn. There's a brother who saw the event on Facebook, and he goes, "There's a hijab for men." I was like, "Yeah, you wrap it around." I'm just kidding. But he was really scared, by the way. So modesty is something that we need to include within our brothers. As a community as a whole, we need to worry about modesty. So why don't we use this word instead? Maintaining my hijab. It's like weird for men to say that, but we should. If we're going to use hijab as a modesty metaphor, then we need to apply it to ourselves too. Say, maintaining my hijab, right? I'm maintaining my hijab, trying to maintain my hijab, she's maintaining her hijab, he's maintaining his hijab. This is something that we're trying to maintain, is a modesty as a community, individually, and a family, so on and so forth. Now we talked about the clothes and the physical aspect of modesty, but there is so much more to modesty than that, right? Muhammad said that there's a special, difference between each ummah, right? Does anyone know what is special about our ummah?
Haya.
Which is?
Shyness.
Some people like to take it as modesty too. Does that make sense? So what's special about our ummah is modesty or shyness. Okay? So, now there's bigger problems than just the physical aspect of modesty, of the clothes that we need to wear, of the guys with their underwears and stuff like that. But there's a bigger problem, and it's not just simple as, okay, well just put on a headscarf, right? Just wear your thobe and get over it. The modesty is connected to multiple things. And one of them is emotions. Men, I guess, don't have emotions. I'm not sure if they do or no. Men feel weird to talk about their emotions. I have a theory. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, so don't take this seriously. Men have a tendency to bottle up their emotions. They save it. I don't know why, but that's just what we end up doing. Okay? And if they don't deal with their emotions correctly, that bottle is going to break. Let's put this between a husband and a wife situation. Let's say that bottle breaks around his wife. Do you know what ends up happening? Domestic violence. Now this is just my own theory. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. But I think y'all would agree with me that guys don't feel comfortable sharing with our emotions. We don't know how to deal with our emotions. We know how to do this. Like that's the language that we speak of. And around other guys, we feel weird to talk about emotions. We feel like it's girly to have emotions. Was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam emotional? Did he have emotions? Did he cry? Ya Allah, he cried a lot. He cried so much. I promise you, if Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was alive today, the media and all these people that make fun of him currently will make fun of him by calling him a crybaby. I promise you, if he was alive today, that's how they would make fun of him. All the articles in the news, whatever, they're going to be drawing him crying all the time. Because Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam cried so much. He cried over so many things. He was such an emotional man, ya Allah. Just today, alhamdulillah, I was a khatib for my masjid for 2.5 years, and I'm graduating now, so I was really scared of trying to get other people to give khutbahs. And alhamdulillah, we have 3 different brothers who giving khutbahs at our masjid. I'm like, oh, sweet, so excited. And the brother who gave a khutbah today talked about how a man, and a son had an issue where when the man was rich and strong, he used to give his poor, weak son money. Now when the son was rich and strong and the man was poor and weak, he doesn't give him money, so his father has to kind of like take money from him. And the boy was complaining to the father, and when Muhammad heard the story from the father that his father had to take money from his son because his son won't give him any, and he's poor and he's weak, Muhammad shed a tear. He cried publicly in front of people. Okay, Muhammad would cry in his salat, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, I'm telling you, this man was so emotional. Okay, this is a really sad story. I have to make this story quick so I can get to the point. There was a man talking about astaghfirullah ta'azim, how he killed his daughter out of jealousy. There's a long story to that, you should search it up. I'm not going to talk about it here. When he was asking Muhammad he asked Muhammad does Allah forgive me? Can he forgive me for my past? Muhammad cried so much that, does anyone know how much he cried? His beard was what? With his tears. It was what? That's how much Muhammad cried. And he responded to this man, if it was me, I would put you in Jahannam. I'd put you in hellfire. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives him. Look at how much he cried. Can anyone name me another prophet that cried so much he even turned blind? What? Yo, I'm Jen, thank you for coming. But this is one for the insan.
Yusuf's father.
Yusuf's father. What's his name? Yaqub alayhi salam. What's his English name? Jacob, Israel. Peace be upon him. He cried so much that he became blind. Another emotional prophet who showed his emotions. And people were like, Jacob, you're crazy. He's gone. Let it go, man. Like, come on. It's been such a long time. And he still had faith. And he was still emotional for his son. Even though his son wasn't even there. Man. Whoa, that was deep. Two prophets that I already mentioned that are emotional and they're very crying. And Muhammad was emotional around his Sahaba. And he had friends that he was comfortable with dealing with his emotions. What does this have to do with hijab and modesty? I will tell you what. When a brother or a sister doesn't have good Muslim friends around them who help them deal with their emotions. And usually, let me tell you the sister scenario and then I'll tell you the brother scenario. The sister, her brother doesn't give her respect and isn't romantic with her, isn't beautiful with her. Her father is the exact same way. He isn't romantic or beautiful with her. By the way, have you ever wanted to tell your dad Dad, why don't you say I love you? And he's like, I tell you I love you by feeding you. You know what I mean? That's the response of a kid, right? But her mother doesn't give her love and respect. They're easier on the son, and they're more nice to the son than they are to the daughter. So she comes CUT, Mr. Bollywood comes up. He goes, Mary John, right? And she's never heard good. She's like, oh my God, and she falls in for him automatically. Because she's never had this emotional good feeling until this random, ugly guy, let's just say, comes up to her. I mean, I'm sure y'all are good looking. But I'll get my drift here. In the guy scenario, it's funny. Because the guy scenario is not used to dealing with his emotions, right? Because we tell girls are emotional, blah, blah, blah. Men, you aren't emotional. If you're emotional, you're weak, right? And so your father obviously doesn't want to show any emotions to you because then he'll show you his weakness, and you can't show your emotions to your father because that shows your weakness, and you can't do that with your mother and your sister, and you want to tell your sister about your emotions, but your sister goes, shut up, you're a guy. I have emotions, you don't, right? So you're a UT, right? Now, you don't go for the girls emotionally, right? You go for the girls because she's hot, okay? And whenever you're trying to get this girl, what do you have to do? You have to be a bit emotional. So you bring out your fake emotional side. But let's say you start going dating her, she becomes your girlfriend, and then all of a sudden she's like, Habibi, tell me about your emotions, And then you start expressing to her your legit emotions, and you start to feel good. You're like, whoa, I've never expressed my emotions to anyone except to you. Oh, this feels awesome. Because I can't go to my Muslim friends and tell them about this. I can't go to my brother about this. I can't go tell my father about this. But you, Habibti, Marijan, whatever, I can tell you my emotions. Do y'all see our problem here? Do you see how ugly our society is? We can't be emotional with each other because we're afraid of judging each other. We're afraid of degrading ourselves. And so we have to go get boyfriends and girlfriends for us to feel good about ourselves. Is that the right way of doing it? Is it hard for us to deal with our emotions with our Muslim brothers and sisters? I think it is. With our literal brothers and sisters and our metaphorical brothers and sisters. And this is a mistake. And I can't change your fathers. I can't change your mothers. That's a very difficult situation. So what you need to do is you need to remember, when you're older, to be emotional to your kids. And that emotions come with strength. So, does anyone here disagree with me that men have emotions? Does anyone disagree with that? Men have emotions, right? They're human beings, they're not robots, right? So, to be a strong human being, you deal with your emotions, or do you put your emotions to the side? Which one? Okay, good. I'm happy y'all already. But you deal with your emotions. That means you have to admit you have emotions, right? Wow, that's so tough, man. My biceps got smaller when I said that. And that's something very important. You have to admit your emotions. You have to admit that you have feelings. I know that sounds so girly and weird. But Muhammad ﷺ, I really, really love this hadith, and I keep on repeating this hadith because I just love it so much. Muhammad ﷺ said the munafiq, right, the hypocrite, is someone who says he is free from hypocrisy, but the mu'min, the believer, is someone who says that he is not free from hypocrisy. The story is that the one who's a true believer, a true Muslim, knows and understands that he is capable of being what? A hypocrite. So he knows that there's a capability that he's a hypocrite, so what is he going to do? Try to avoid hypocrisy. Until you know that you are capable of sinning, you won't know that to avoid sinning. And I know this is going to sound tough, brothers and sisters. Brothers, obviously domestic violence goes both ways, but it's obviously mostly on the men. This is kind of scary, but you have to understand that you're capable to be a part of domestic violence. You have to understand that. And until you understand that, then you will know how to avoid yourself and know how to deal with your emotions. If you don't know you have that problem, khalas, you're fine, blah, 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 you'll just keep doing what you're doing with your emotions, everything will be good, and then a scenario happens, that's alhamdulillah. Until you understand you have that problem, then you can fix it. Then you can avoid it. I know no one likes to think that way, but us Muslims are realistic people. We understand that we have problems, and we understand that there are mistakes, so that's how we solve it, right? We are the ones who say, I am not free from hypocrisy. Y'all, I could be lying to everything to y'all right now. I could be a complete hypocrite. That's subhanAllah, may Allah accept my, I guess, trying at least, inshallah. So, as Muslims, we have to understand our problems, we have to solve it. And men, that means that we have to be emotional. What does it have to do with you, sisters? That whenever your brother, your little, not a metaphorical brother, don't, if a brother texts you like, hey sister, can I talk to you about my emotions? Tell him, look, there's Sheikh Omar, there's Omar Sanem, I'm sure Sa'ad deals really good with emotions. Like, hit us guys up, we'll deal with him, inshallah, you know? But what I'm trying to say is that it would be awesome if we had a system within our community that helps these types of situations. I feel uncomfortable telling non-Muslims about emotions and feelings because they take it as like, oh, you're weak, right? But in this Muslim community, I feel comfortable with that. I'm okay with that, with expressing it. Muhammad ﷺ expressed it, and I'm going to too, inshallah. Inshallah, we'll do that to each other. But I was saying here, sisters, whenever your little brother comes up to you and says, I want to talk to you, what do you say? Shut up, right? No, don't tell him that. I'll tell you all a funny story, though.